Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we return to talking about Trump's brand new press secretary, Kayleigh McEnany. She's a great new face for Trump's team, and she's been having some really riveting press conferences over the past week or so. She just got instated into this position where she leads the press conferences, takes questions from reporters, represents the Trump administration in this dire time of need. If you hadn't noticed, these press conferences have become far more prevalent in recent history because mostly there's this health scare going on, and originally Trump was actually running these press conferences every day on his own. He's been doing it every day, going out there, giving America updates, keeping us strong, keeping us confident, making sure he knows our president is going to lead us through this problem. But recently, after things started to kind of wind down, Trump's had press conferences every day for, I think, almost a month. And now that's why he's brought in his new, I would say, ringer. She's almost like a ringer because she's coming in late, but she's really strong, really effective, stunning. She looks amazing. She's well-spoken. She gets all the points, and she's just a real good Trump supporter. Press Secretary Kayleigh is a hero. She's gotten out some real zingers lately. We covered her in a video a few days ago, and today is no different. We've got some new zingers, some new comments from a new press conference that were very interesting. I want to go over them very soon, but first, let's take a quick moment to check out our sponsors at Virtual Shield. With the majority of the world's workforce now working from home, VPN security is now preferred. Cyber spying is at an all-time high, and a useful tool you can use to protect yourself is a VPN, or a virtual private network, to scramble your computer's identity from nosy cyber criminals. Those guys are the worst. Due to the recent pandemic, Virtual Shield also wants to offer 50% off all VPN plans and all premium add-ons, including Protection Plus, Residential Access, and VIP performance plans. And also, every time you guys sign up, it helps support this channel here on YouTube. Thanks again for your time, and now back to the show. Great, now that that's out of the way, let's talk more about the press secretary. Kayleigh has been stepping up the last week, and again, she's got a new quote and a new series of questions that she responded to pretty good. Last time she was talking about the media, and she's been called out for some of her older comments. Kayleigh has been a sort of media personality for years now. She's been on CNN, been on Fox News, Fox Business, said many different things, and a lot of it was prior to working for the Trump administration. She's actually worked for Trump for a few years now. She was originally working on his campaign before being moved up to press secretary, and overall she's done a great job, but she wasn't always with President Trump directly. I think she supported him a lot in the beginning too, but previously she said other things, and she even mentions things where she disagreed with him early on. Not a big deal. People disagree with other people all the time, but what's happening now is the press is trying to bring up these old quotes and like, got you, Kayleigh, because they're saying, oh, you disagree with Trump here, you disagree with him here. But most of this stuff is really old stuff, 4 or 5 years ago, stuff that's changed. A lot has changed since then. And it's just basically making the press look like weak haters who don't have anything better to say. They're trying to attack the press secretary instead of actually talking about the news and the events and what's going on in the world. Ask questions about this health scare. Ask questions about domestic issues, foreign, healthcare, other stuff like that. That's getting thrown out the window as people are trying to come after Kayleigh, who's pretty innocent, pretty cute too, so it's kind of hard to attack her. Like we said in a previous video, she's kind of the kryptonite to these reporters because not only is she pretty, well-spoken, a Trump supporter, but she's also a family woman. She just had a kid. She got married a few years back. She's got everything that the left despises, and that's part of the reason this thing has been blowing up so much recently. So here's the first tweet and first comment that we're going to go through, and then we'll get to a video. It says, it's from Jason. It says, Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany addresses her past Trump comments dug up by CNN. For about the first 4 weeks of the election, I was watching CNN, and I was naively believing some of the headlines that I saw on CNN. Okay, that gets right to the heart of her response, and we'll watch the video clip soon. But first of all, this is like comments from 2016. They're trying to dig up old thoughts that she had. I think they're trying to turn her against the president or say how she disagreed with Trump at some point 4 years ago. Kind of ridiculous, kind of silly, because obviously she's fully in line with him now. She's been working for him for years. A lot of things have changed. Like, this is back when people didn't even think Trump was going to win. You go back to 2015, most people didn't consider him even a legit candidate. I would always thought he was interesting. I supported him early in 2016, predicted he would win by the summer, but not everyone was on the same page, and not everyone was ready to make that, especially you're on TV, you've got more clout, more people hanging on your every word, and also you don't know who's going to come back on your words, like what's happening now. Kayleigh probably thought, and other people thought, oh, this could be dug up and used against me later, and that's kind of what's happening in a very poor, very unprofessional way, and it's also distracting us from real issues. So with all that said, without further ado, let's get to this video and see what these guys have to say.
In 2015, the second question I have is, in 2015, shortly after the president said that some Mexican immigrants were criminals, you said that that language was racist and hateful. Do you still believe that today?
Well, I'm actually glad you asked that, because for about the first 4 weeks of the election, I was watching CNN and I was naively believing some of the headlines that I saw on CNN.
Okay, this is a good response already. So the question is coming from CNN. It's coming from this reporter lady in the back who's asked a lot of ridiculous questions before. She's obviously over the top. You can see a picture of her here wearing her mask now. She's the one that's asked some real dumb questions about like Kung Flu and other silly things, like trying to got you stuff, trying to stir the pot and like say something's racist when something's not. Here she's commenting on Trump's comments about illegals coming in from the southern border, and yeah, some of them are criminals, some of them are bad people. There's really nothing wrong with saying that. The only reason it even can sound bad potentially is when it gets reframed by liberals saying, oh, the first thing they said was Trump said all Mexicans are criminals or something. Like, that's not what happened at all. They took an extrapolation and took it in the worst bad faith interpretation possible. They try to pretend everyone, like Trump said, everyone in Mexico was this big bad criminal, did these bad things, these abuses and stuff, but that's not the case. The whole quote, if you've actually seen it and you're actually taking it seriously, it says, yeah, bad people are coming in, they're sneaking in, this is what happens, they're doing bad things like committing crimes, hurting people, bringing in illegal things. This is all the truth. There's nothing wrong with saying that, but these liberals want to reframe it and make it sound like it's offensive and racist to call out criminals trying to break into our country. Absolutely absurd. And I think now back to the Kayleigh side of this. So they're trying to turn this on Kayleigh and say, hey, do you still agree that you think that's a racist comment? Do you think that's offensive? And I think that's a harder thing to answer. I'm not sure what situation Kayleigh was in. She was on some show, maybe some other Fox Business or whatever guest she was on. She could have been on the radio, whatever it is. But I'm pretty sure if she said that, she was probably responding to a misframed interpretation, like I was talking about how they reframed Trump's answer, and then she was saying, yeah, obviously that sounds racist, because if you say all of this country's people are criminals, that's racist. But she's responding to a misinterpretation that someone else said. So there's a kind of like game of telephone going on here, and it's just not fair. And unless this lady wants to really reveal like the actual quotes or clips or something, she's just wasting everyone's time. With that said, though, let's get back to Kayleigh's response.
And reading headlines, that's fine. I just want to know if you also personally still believe that.
I'm actually not going to read the headlines. So I very quickly came around and supported the president. In fact, CNN hired me. I was on many 8-on-1 panels where I proudly supported this president, who I believe is one of the best presidents, if not the best president this country will ever have. But I would encourage the individual who did that analysis of my past, rather than focusing on me, he really should be focused on some of the very guests CNN chose to have on their network. He should be focused.
Okay, that's another good point. She says how she was a guest on CNN's network. She worked for them in a capacity at one point. And then they've had other really bad actors on there before too. People I've mentioned before. Basically, if anyone will come out and speak against Trump, they'll have them on CNN. They could be some of the worst, most racist, most offensive people possible. It doesn't matter. If they'll speak out against Trump, they'll bring them on. They've brought on all kinds of crazy names. Names I won't even mention because it could get me flagged or dinged or something. But I think that's a good point there. And then also, the point is very interesting where Kayleigh's turning to CNN, turning the media back onto themselves. So they're trying to comment on her personal comments as an individual, and she can just easily flip it back on them and say, hey, this is the press. You guys had bad headlines. You guys had bad information at this time too. Previously, We were talking about this in the last video, and I think it was more pertaining to the response to this health crisis. But now we're talking more about, oh, this is the last election. We're talking about 2016, where a lot of people got a lot of things wrong back then. All of the media was saying that Hillary was going to win in a landslide. They had crazy headlines on CNN. They basically had said, oh, Hillary already won. They predicted it with the polls. They had these really bad guesses like all over across the liberal mainstream media. So it's very interesting that they'll bring that up and kind of forget their past. They have no ability to self-reflect and see how they actually act or look in the public. So that's why things happen like this, and that's why people like Kayleigh can just so easily and effortlessly call them out.
Focused on, I mean, over here, Jim Clapper, who said, 10 days before he privately told investigators there was no evidence of collusion, that Watergate pales in comparison to the Russia probe. I'd encourage them to look at Samantha Powers, who's privately saying, I'm not in possession of any evidence of collusion. Ambassador Rice, I don't recall intelligence or evidence of any collusion. Former Attorney General Loretta Lynch, I do not recall that being briefed to me.
Okay, now she's moved on to talk about the fake collusion narrative. So we're past the election, which was a total duffed situation by all the networks. And now we're talking about them duffing collusion, which was kind of their campaign against Trump for the last 2 years. The one that blew up in their faces last year when the investigations were bunk. Mueller didn't have any evidence against him. Impeachment failed. Every single thing failed. These networks have no room to talk. That's why it's so funny and so rich and so great for Kayleigh to kind of clap back at them with this, because these networks are the worst. We're talking about CNN, MSNBC, in some ways, other networks, ABC, CBS. I mean, these guys are terrible. They called it for Trump. They got it wrong in 2016. They got it wrong in 2018, 2019 when we talked about this collusion stuff. They said there was collusion, even though Tapper said he didn't find the files. No one really had any proof. It never happened. It was a big frame job. They were trying to basically pull this coup, take out a president who was duly elected, who did nothing wrong, and it's just because they don't like him. And then for them to kind of act like they have any kind of moral high ground. That's what's really rich here. There's no moral high ground at all for this kind of network. They should be playing it safe. They should be trying to rebuild their reputation. Like, become real reporters again. Say things you mean. Do research. Don't ask got you questions. Like, stay on point. But instead, we're getting nonsense like this. And that's why it's great to see a new press secretary like Kayleigh taking them down with ease, looking very professional, doing it a well-spoken way, not a slobby, kind of inappropriate, like finding your old quotes the way, like she's doing it right. She's responding to attacks in the best way possible.
And for 3 years, 2 years, probably more than that, CNN ran with the collusion narrative. And if the American people are watching right now, you're probably very confused as to some of the quotes I read, because those individuals were saying much different things publicly than they were saying privately. And I'm very grateful that those transcripts were released yesterday. And perhaps the K-File should do an analysis of that. Yes, Ebony?
Are you walking back those comments today?
No, she's not walking back. She's not even, those comments are old and they don't matter. The point is, you guys are fake news. You've been pushing collusion for 3 years. That was a lie. Then now she's commenting on these private conversations that came out to prove that they knew it was a lie. They knew there wasn't proof, but they were publicly still pushing it. People like Rachel Maddow, Jake Tapper, all these hacks in the mainstream media were pushing this lie, and it happened for years, and now they want to turn on us and say, oh, Trump said this. Oh, you said this 4 years ago. It's like, no, you guys are crap. You guys have no room to talk.
Okay, at all, or do you stand by those comments that you made?
I support this president. There is no questioning that. I'm so honored to work for him. And Ebony, next question.
Next question from Ebony, probably another SJW reporter. Yeah, that reporter, it's just they won't let it go. They're just terrible actors, operating on bad information, dishonest. I mean, they have no interest in reporting news. They have only interest in tearing down their opponents, pushing this propaganda, and just showing how bad things have come in journalism. That's why it's great to see this new press secretary taking charge, stepping up while Trump handles more important business now. We've gotten through the worst of this, at least for now. Things are starting to look better in the crisis in the world. And I think last thing I'll end on is there was another quote from this conference where Kayleigh said something like, oh, Trump was bold enough to stop the most powerful economy in the world. We were in such a good state before this virus hit, and we stopped it because we wanted to save lives. And then these people dare to say we're not trying to help and we're trying to hurt people and we're trying to reopen too soon. That's nonsense. The president's doing a great job, so is press secretary, and I'm looking forward to see what happens in the future. Thanks for watching today's video, guys. Make sure you hit that like button if you enjoyed what you saw, and also comment your thoughts on everything below. In addition, we're also going to have a stream later today on my second channel called NoBS News. Link to that is below as well, or you could subscribe to NoBS News today. Thanks for your time, and you guys have a good one.